Hello and welcome to our Ask Us Anything live. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm George from the Central Student Recruitment Team, and I'm really pleased to be joined by you to be answering all of your questions. Now, we know that things feel very different at the moment, and in light of the UCAS application deadline extension, we wanted to bring you another opportunity to ask us any questions that you might have about studying with us. So please do send in your questions using the chat function, which you should see to the right, and we'll do our best to get through as many questions as we can. We have already had some great questions sent in, but before we take a look at those, I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves first. So I think we'll start with admissions. So Jo, if you wouldn't mind going first.
Yeah, I'm Jo Ladward, Director of Admissions.
Thank you. And Jackie.
Hello, I'm Jackie Johnson and I am the admissions officer in the admissions office.
Thank you very much. And over to medicine, Gordon, if you'd like to go next.
Hi, Gordon Dent. I'm Director of Admissions and a Senior Lecturer in the School of Medicine at Keele.
Brilliant, thank you. And accommodation, Jo.
Yeah, my name's Jo. I work in the accommodation office, so I'm here to answer any questions you've got about accommodation.
Thank you. And then we're also joined by one of our student ambassadors. So Alicia, if you want to just tell us perhaps a little bit about the course you're studying, the year that you're in, that kind of thing.
Okay. Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm a second year undergraduate. I'm studying Environment and Sustainability, School of Geography, Geology and Environment. I'm a mature student here. I'm taking part in the study abroad programme. I've done a few internships here. I'm living in the sustainability bungalow, so committee members, part of society, so broad range of interests. Questions?
Yeah, brilliant. So you've got a sort of a real understanding of the student experience here at Keele, so that's going to be great. So thank you very much, everyone. Don't forget to send in your questions to the panel, but without further ado, we'll make a start. So if I can come to admissions first, and perhaps Jo, if you want to answer this first question that we've had sent in. Understandably, there's been a lot of disruption and uncertainty around how students are going to be assessed and sort of ultimately how their grades will be achieved. How are Keele approaching admissions for 2021 entry?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we realise how challenging a year it's been for applicants, and we will obviously try and be as flexible as possible when we get those results in, and just to really reassure applicants that we do look at a whole range of things when we consider applications. So it isn't just about results, it's about their personal statement, any work experience, extracurricular activities, that sort of thing. So I think just really it's a reassuring message.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Jo. And Jackie, if I can come to you, students are obviously feeling a little bit uncertain about what grades they might actually achieve. If they don't get the grades that they were expecting, what are their options come results day? What are the kind of things that we can look at for students?
Right, okay. The main thing is when you do get your results, if you don't actually meet your conditional offer, the main thing is don't panic at that stage. Please don't panic. If you don't actually meet the offer, we will go back to your application and we'll take everything into account on there. We'll look at GCSE profile, reference again, personal statement, and sometimes we can sort of, accept a lower grade. Depending which course you've applied for, we need to take all of that into account. But we also have with the foundation year that we can consider applicants for. So if they don't quite meet their offer for the degree, we can look at the foundation year, and we would automatically do that. So there would be no need to contact us. We would just do that automatically when we get the results through. So the main message is don't panic, and please, just sit tight. Yeah,
absolutely. Don't panic, and there are options available.
Exactly.
Brilliant. And Gordon, if I could come to you, we've had a question sent in about work experience. Understandably, a lot of students might have struggled to get work experience in the run up to their application. And also, if students are looking for 2022 entry, they may be going through that process at the moment. Will the school be taking this into consideration throughout the process?
The headline answer to that is we're always very flexible on the kind of experience we're looking for. So in particular, we're not interested in experience in clinical settings. So if you can't get into hospitals and GP practices, that doesn't matter to us at all. What we're looking for is evidence of engagement with people, and ideally in some sort of way in which you're caring for or supporting them. So there've been a lot of ways in which people have been getting involved over last summer, for example, in helping people in their community. And then that's the kind of thing that's presented to us in their applications. And that's looked at in just the same way as having experience in care homes or hospices or whatever.
Yeah, brilliant.
I just have to repeat that we do have a fixed number of places. So you are still competing with other people for places.
Yeah, still very much a competitive course. And just staying with you for a second, Gordon, we've also had a question sent in about remote teaching. Obviously, with medicine, there's a large emphasis on those practical skills in order to become a medical profession. How is the school dealing with this?
There's some degree of prioritisation there, because clearly the further on in the course you are, the more important it is that you're spending time in contact with patients. So the placement activity really ramps up in year 3. We do have clinical placements in year 1 and year 2, and this year those have all been remote. So, for example, you would have been sitting in on remote GP consultations and then being asked by the GP to take a history from a patient over a video link. So it's still real world experience, it's just where you're doing it is different. Yeah,
absolutely. That's great. Thank you, Gordon. And admissions, Joe, if I can come back to you. Obviously, the UCAS deadline has been extended to the 29th of January. Does that deadline mean students can't apply to us after that date? So if they miss that date, is that sort of the end of it, or is there still opportunity to apply?
No, applications are still accepted after that date. There will be a certain number of courses that will be closed, but they will be shown on UCAS course search and on our website. But we do accept applications after that date. And there'll be a high number of courses that will be in extra as well. So there will be an opportunity to apply after that.
Yeah, brilliant. That's reassuring. Thank you, Joe. And Alicia, if we could come to you as our student ambassador for this evening, could you give us a bit of an insight into your student experience at Keele so far, just for anyone listening, to just give an idea of what it's been like to study at Keele?
Okay, so I've had 2 very different experiences, because when I started, we were obviously pre-COVID, so there was so many activities going on. There's it's called Grand Challenges, the ILAS lectures that they're extracurricular. They're not to do with your course, but they're free to everyone. Members of the public can come in. So there was that whole program going on as well, although that has actually transitioned to online since COVID has started. So that's amazing. They are fantastic. There's all of the clubs and societies. Again, everything's having to happen remotely now, but the SU team is working very, very hard to make that happen for. My course is entirely online at the moment. I think we had 3 in-person sessions in the last semester. As Gordon has said, it's the prioritisation. My course is professionally accredited, so it was the things that we needed to do to get those professional skills. But everything else has gone online, which has happened quite well. There's obviously no substitute for the in-person, but it's certainly a very doable experience. Obviously as a mature student, it's been slightly different as well for me coming back into education. So accessing all of the support services that go around as well, things like Right Direction to help with academic writing skills and things that are available through the library as well, learning how to reference properly. It's all out there and it has all gone online. So I guess my takeaway from it is not to panic if we are still going online as we go into next year. Hopefully we won't be. Hopefully we'll have a bit more normality back by then. But that transition has has happened. It's a different experience, but that's the new normal, as they call it, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. Really insightful. Gordon, if I could come back to you. We've had a couple of questions sent in from Morgan, who is an international student, and has said that they've just sat their IGCSE results. When would you suggest I apply for medical school? So I suppose the question there is the process any different for an international student? And could you perhaps just walk us through that process?
Okay, so if somebody's just taken their IGCSEs, an important thing for them to recognise is they have to be 18 before they can start the course. So we would usually be expecting people to do another 2 years of schooling beyond that to come out with their country's school leaving qualification, or something like international baccalaureate or international A-levels, whatever. So they should be applying in the year in which they're doing those final qualifications. The way we select international students for interview is different from how we select home students for interview. So for international students, they have to do a different aptitude test. So our home students have to do the University Clinical Aptitude Test, the UCAS. Our international applicants have to do the Biomedical Admissions Test, the BMAT. And our selection for interview of international applicants is based on their score in the BMAT. So somebody who's just done their researching these aptitude tests, because most UK medical schools you'd have to have done one of them for, and then see when those are sat, how you would need to prepare for them and so on.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm guessing work experience is still just as important?
It's going to come up in interview. It's not something we would look at before interview for international applicants, but you're going to need to have had some experiences to have things to talk about in interview.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And accommodation, Joe, if I could come to you. It's Morgan again has also sent in a question about accommodation. So Morgan's just asking how accommodation. So again, is it any different? What can an international student expect from our accommodation?
So yeah, with international students, we do have we do work it slightly different. We look at their applications slightly different to the home students. They normally have a slightly longer deadline to apply, so hopefully it's in a couple of years' time it will be back to normal. So he'll have another month to apply for accommodation. The application process itself is exactly the same. It's still the same form and everything like that. It is just that where we look at where we allocate the students is slightly different, but they still get the same choices and everything.
Yeah. And do international students have any time to move in slightly earlier than home students, just given the fact that obviously I'm sure they're probably bringing more stuff and there's a little bit more to it than if you're just moving up the road?
Yeah. So normally it is 3 extra days. They're expected to arrive 3 extra days early, and then they get an induction process that is more welcoming, and they have to sit a few tests, I think, extra to the UK students. Yeah,
brilliant. And Joe, if I can just stay with you for a second, you touched on accommodation allocation there, and I would imagine a lot of applicants who are starting to think about submitting their application for accommodation are wondering sort of how they get allocated their accommodation. Could you just give us a flavour of how that happens?
Yeah, I mean, it is mostly done by the system. So we help the system as such and make sure that it's doing everything right and check everything. But yes, students put 3 preferences on their application form, and the system then looks at them in turn and decides, then looks at what's available and picks on where appropriate for them. I should point out, when I say in turn, it is random, so it's not first come first served. That's an important one. There's no rush to get your application done. As long as you complete the application by the deadline, everyone's got the same chance.
Yeah. And when is our application deadline, Joe?
For this year, I think it's the end of June.
Okay, so still got plenty of time to have a look at like the virtual talk online.
To be honest, the applications haven't even opened yet. I think we're looking at the start of March for that at the moment.
Right.
A bit delayed this year with everything what's going on.
I think we can forgive you, Jo. I think we can bear with you on that one. For anyone who is watching who obviously hasn't had the chance to see our accommodation, there is plenty of sort of virtual tours on our website, and make sure that you have a little look around and familiarise yourself with what we've got on offer. Alicia, I'd like to come to you. Morgan has sent in a question about the sport at Keele. Now, in particular, he's asked about rugby and whether it's serious or not. Now, I know you might not necessarily know about rugby, but are you able to give us a bit of a flavour on the sort of the societies, sports clubs that are available at Keele?
Rugby, you're right, I'm not a rugby player, but that said, there was a girl on my course last year who was involved with rugby. She was absolutely dedicated to it. She loved it. So that was obviously last year's team, but a very positive experience for her. In terms of what I do know about, a huge range of basically anything goes. I was part of swimming last year. The university itself doesn't have a swimming pool, but we went out swimming pools in the local area, and that was all included in our membership fee for the year. The travel out there and back. Met up 3 times a week. There's also a sports centre on site that has a gym and it has a regular programme, weekly exercise classes. You can get involved with both of those. And again, just to demonstrate how we're adapting at the moment, they altered the membership arrangements last year to take into account the fact that you wouldn't be here necessarily, shorter membership terms, but they've also now gone online. So if you follow the Facebook page, you can still get access to some of the instructors and courses. They're still staying very active. But I think if you go onto the Keele SU website, there's on there, it says about clubs and societies, and you get the whole spiel. There's also the freshers sign up, although what I've found is that I thought I knew everything, and then you talk to someone and they say, oh yes, I'm just going off to such and such a society tonight, and you think, what? I didn't even know that existed. So just keep asking, keep talking. And the other thing to bear in mind is if your society doesn't exist now, you can always apply and set up your own.
Yeah, I think you've just made a really good point as well, and actually that range of societies is sort of testament to the sort of broad, diverse group of students that we've got on campus, whether it's sport, whether it's reading, music, whatever it is you're interested in, you'll probably be able to find something that fits that. And like you say, if not, you're able to set it up yourself. So that's great. I've got an admissions question. So Jo, if I could come to you. Obviously some students have been affected by the global pandemic in a variety of ways, whether that be their health, their family's health, or even sort of access to online teaching that might have impacted their abilities. Does Keele take this into consideration when making offers, if it's sort of made clear on the application form?
Yeah, so we do take it into account, and certainly we do as well when we receive the results. So if there is anybody's got any real sort of personal circumstances, mitigating circumstances, then they can email us with those, and then we'll flag those and then consider those when we consider the results. So yes, certainly we would take that into account.
Brilliant. I suppose it's one of them things where we need to know about it. So if you do think there is something that's affected your circumstances, make sure you tell us so we can help you in the right way. And just staying with admissions, Jackie, if I could perhaps come to you. We've had a question sent in previously about personal statements, and if you're looking for anything in particular on the personal statement.
Yes, we are. Obviously, the personal statement is a very important part of the application, the UCAS application. We definitely take that into account when making our decisions. Yeah. Obviously, for the central courses, the main things that we are looking for is their interest in the course that they've applied for. So, why they're actually interested in that particular course. If they've got any kind of extracurricular activities that they want to let us know about, anything that they're involved in when they're at school and college, any sort of societies again or anything like that. And also a bit of information about their ambitions and the career that they maybe want to go into. So it's just provide as much information as you can, just to try and kind of sell yourself really for the course, register the course. So
yeah, and the opportunity that an applicant gets to really set themselves apart from somebody else, you know. So
exactly.
for some of our courses that are a little bit more competitive, that personal statement gives us a real insight into them as a person.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks, Jackie. Thank you. Jo, in accommodation, could I come back to you, please, and just ask you to give us a bit of an insight into the accommodation that we've got on campus?
Yeah, so there is quite a good range of accommodation. We start off with the traditional accommodation, so that is shared facilities. There's no extra in your room, no wash basin, no ensuite. It is just your bedroom. You're in a shared block with other students, and you share the bathroom and kitchen. Up from that, you get the classic, which is pretty similar, apart from you've got a sink in your room. Then there's the classic plus, which again is near enough the same as the classic, apart from the fact where you're sharing the facilities, you would share with fewer students. So that's good. Then you go up to the ensuite accommodation. Oh no, sorry, I've missed one out. The flat. The flat. So we've got the shared houses and flats. They are a mixture of between 4 and 8 students that share a bathroom and a kitchen. Again, there's no additional facilities. There's no sink in your room or ensuite or anything with that. Then yes, we go on to the ensuite. So it's the ensuite plus. So that is normally 3/4 bed in your accommodation. That's blocks like Hollycross, Lindsay Court. To be honest, they all look very similar to each other. I often say, if you blindfolded me and put me in one of the blocks, I wouldn't be able to say which one it was. They are larger blocks, but you've got your own bathroom there. But you're sharing the kitchen then with 8. There's 8 of you in the kitchen there, and then you've got the ensuite superior. So that's a mixture of 6 to 8 students on a corridor. It's like a flat. They then share the kitchen, but you've got your own ensuite, your own bathroom.
Yeah. So range of different types of accommodation available.
Yeah.
So is there options for all budget types then? So if someone's wants to go, brilliant. Now, interestingly, Alicia, you don't live in any of those types of accommodation, but you are on campus, aren't you? Could you just tell us what the sort of kind of setup that you've got at home?
Okay, so I was in the shared flats last year. This year, I'm in what's called the Student Sustainability Bungalow, which is a unique project here. There is only one bungalow. It's for 4 students, and the idea is, I think a big thing with Keele is it's quite a living lab. And a few years ago, some students came forward. They were on the environment course and said, we're learning all of these sustainability things in the classroom, but we've got no way of actually applying them in real life, and we would like to do that. So that's how the bungalow was born, basically. It's for 4 students to put into action what we're learning. We've got a vegetable garden here, we've got a polytunnel. We get involved with promoting sustainability activities. We did an Instagram takeover day of a day in the life of. Ordinarily, we would do a weekly communal cooking. It's structured far more like a house than traditional student accommodation. The applications have opened now, actually, but you've got to be 2nd year or 3rd year to apply. So for prospective applicants, this is one to watch out for in future years. I would highly recommend it. I was very apprehensive about coming into the bungalow to start off with. It carries with it a little bit more responsibility because of the promoting the sustainability bit to the wider student body. But I'm so glad now I have come into it. It's a really unique experience, and for me, that's what university is about. It's about getting those experiences. And the other thing is, because we are a campus university, I personally find living on campus helps me feel part of that community slightly more, and for me is important, but I know that's a personal preference.
Staying with you, Alicia, obviously moving away or just moving to university in general is quite a big thing. What kind of advice would you give someone who's perhaps a little bit apprehensive about, coming to Keele or just going to university in general?
Firstly, don't be. You're not the first person to do it. You're not the last person. You will have days where you wobble. You will have those first couple of nights where you're in your room and you think, oh my gosh, I'm all by myself. But we've all got through it, and you will too. There is every reason to think you will. Make sure you bring nice stuff with you to make it feel homely. I know that's such a cliche, but it really does make a difference. Just photos, fairy lights, bunting, anything to make it feel like cushions. That's been a big thing for me, and a nice snuggly blanket. Also, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yes, get out and take part. That is crucial. No one's going to come knocking on your door. But at the same time, if you don't feel like going out, that's absolutely fine. I didn't go into the SU once all of last year, and I've still got great friends. But I didn't go because that's not what interests me. And so by sticking true to what did interest me, I've met people who have the same personality set up, and I'd much rather have those kind of friends. It's also a way of learning who you are. I tried a lot of societies through Freshers Week last year that I thought I would absolutely love, and I turned out I didn't like them at all. Yet one that I thought there was absolutely no way I'm doing that turned out to be my absolute favourite. So give everything a go. Open heart, open mind.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's lovely advice, actually. And like you say, if you get yourself involved in things that you really are interested in, then chances are you're going to meet like-minded people. And I think Keele's very, very good for that. There's so many different opportunities. It's not all, if you're not a drinker or if you don't want, big nights out, there's still an absolute ton of things that you can get yourself involved in, and vice versa. So, whatever your interest is, there's so many opportunities to meet like-minded people. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Alicia. That was really helpful. Gordon, could I come to you, please? We've had a question sent in about can prepare for a medicine interview. So any words of advice there?
Maybe three things. The most important thing about preparing for interview is getting used to talking.
Yeah.
So if you find talking to people you haven't met before a little bit difficult, you need to be pushing yourself to get used to doing it, because you don't want to be doing it for the first time when you're in an interview that a decision is going to depend on. You should have a very clear understanding of why medicine is what you want to do and what kinds of things you've experienced that have convinced you that it's what you want to do and that you'll be good at it. And it's fairly important to be able to engage in discussions about things that are related to medicine and society broadly. So things that have been in the news in the past couple of years, and clearly there's a story that's very much in the news at the moment. We would expect a perspective to be well informed and able to engage in a discussion, identify important issues and discuss possible actions and outcomes. So all those various things, I think. We want people to have any medical knowledge, and we don't want people talking in medical jargon. That will not do you any good at all. In common with a few other medical schools, our interview does include role play. So again, the kinds of experiences you've had where you've been engaging directly with people are going to become significant there, because you should have developed the ability to engage with people, talk to them on their level, understand how they're feeling and respond to what they say.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And am I right in thinking it's multiple mini interviews in
this year? It's a bit unusual. So usually we do multiple mini interviews. What we've done this year is give each student two 15-minute interviews with two interviewers in each, and they go through a series of 3 tasks in each of those 2 interviews. So it's pretty much like a multiple mini interview, except you have the same 2 interviewers for 3 consecutive stations.
Yeah, Brilliant, thank you. And obviously we spoke foundation year. Now I know that medicine's foundation year operates just slightly different, doesn't it, Gordon? So are you able to just give us an overview of how that works?
Yeah, it's important to recognise the foundation year for medicine is specifically a route for students from disadvantaged backgrounds. There are very specific eligibility criteria for it that are on Keele web pages, so you can look them up there. It's not simply an alternative route for people who haven't achieved the required grades for the medicine programme. Look at it differently from the foundation years generally at Keele, where if for whatever reason you're not quite meeting your A-level grades, for most courses at Keele, the foundation year is an alternative. That's not the case for medicine unless you fulfil the eligibility criteria for social and socioeconomic disadvantage.
Brilliant, thank you. So important that students look on the web page and just have, familiarise yourself with that criteria to see if you do fit the criteria. Brilliant, thank you. Jo, accommodation. Obviously, with the ongoing pandemic, accommodations had to sort of adapt a little bit. Understandably, students might be a little bit apprehensive at the prospect of sharing accommodation when we've been so used to sort of staying apart and social distancing. How's Keele dealt with this over the last sort of 12 months?
So what we've got at the moment is household bubbles. So no one is at the moment sharing with more than 8, 7 other students, really, should I say, in a household bubble. So that is the kitchen and the bathroom. As you can appreciate, that has taken some changes to the accommodation. So there is quite a number of rooms that aren't currently in use at the moment. With regards, it is quite similar to how it is at home at the moment. We encourage people, if you're in the communal area, put your mask on, social distance. There's hand sanitizing stations outside. There's also a safe zone app that you can use when you're on campus as well, and students are encouraged to do that anyway. That's available regardless, but yes, that is being encouraged at the moment. There's testing station on campus. There's the usual one if you think you've got symptoms, and there is also the lateral flow testing stations at the moment. So if anyone is on campus, they're encouraged to go. Hopefully it'll be different in September.
I know. I think we're all hoping, aren't we, that it'll be a thing of the past very soon. But I suppose it's reassuring for applicants, I think, though, to just know how we've been dealing with it. And if I can just stay with you, Jo, for a second, students who have had to self-isolate on campus, how have we supported those students? Because inevitably, there's been students who have found themselves having to isolate for, a week to 10 days. How have we supported those students?
So what we have in the various halls is our collection points. So at various times, our whole the portering team go out and they deliver certain items to those collection points. So it might be your post, so that can include your Amazon deliveries or anything like that. It can be prescriptions. You can also do orders from the shop on campus, and they'll deliver those as well. They have a horn, so they announce they've arrived, and you can go and collect your stuff. Obviously, social distancing, masks, all that sort of thing is still encouraged. But it did surprise me the first time I heard one of the horns.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
But yeah, so you can still get everything that you need while you're in the accommodation. But yes, you do have to isolate, and it does unfortunately affect the other people that are in your bubble.
Yeah. I've seen online as well. We've done sort of packages so students can opt for different levels of like food items and various products that they might need. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's all there, and obviously all the support is online, so students can look at what's available for them. All the information is updated regularly. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jo.
I think it's working so far.
Yeah. I suppose now's a good point to just say that we've got a dedicated webpage where all of the updates are. So keele.ac.uk/coronavirus. It's updated every day with various bits of information. So, you know, anyone can go on and have a little look at that. So yeah, make sure you make yourself aware of that. Admissions, we've had a question sent in. So Joe, if I could come to you. We've got a student who's interested in studying chemistry, and I think that what they're trying to get at is how important is that subject specific grade. So if the course requirement is BBC, for example, and they've got a C in chemistry, what does that mean for sort of their application?
We'd certainly suggest they'd still apply, because we look at other subjects they've taken as well. So
Yeah.
certainly I would encourage them to apply. There's also, we do have alternative programs that we could offer to.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm right in thinking that every course has got an admissions tutor as well, aren't I? So that we can liaise with them as well about specific requirements if we're not, you know, 100% sure. Yeah,
we do have admissions tutors for every programme, and certainly, as I say, we consider applications from not just their predicted grades, but you know, the whole application. We also consider students for the foundation year too, so alternative programmes.
And obviously some students will be studying an extended project, EPQ, as some students might know it as. Do we consider that alongside grades?
Yes, we do. What we tend to do is offer the standard offer, but then also an alternative offer with the EPQ grade included. Okay, so students got a little bit of flexibility depending on how the EPQ goes. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Accommodation. Joe, can I ask you about the sort of key items that you'd recommend students bring in with them when they move in, and perhaps you could touch on if there's anything that's not permitted, so the kind of things that you think students should be bringing with them.
Yeah, so the most important thing to bring is yourself. Obviously we hope you come to Keele, so yeah, please come, apply for accommodation. Yeah, so I think Alicia's touched on it a bit herself. You know, you need to bring your own bed in, duvet, pillow, a nice duvet cover, brighten your accommodation, your room up a little bit. Pots and pans, anything you want to cook with. We always say to students, be wary of things like toasters and things like that. What you could end up with is, if you've got a kitchen and there's 8 of you, you could end up with 8 toasters. They are really easy to buy when you get to Keele. Keele does seem like it's out in the sticks a little bit, but Newcastle is near enough to nip out and go and buy a toaster, or you can buy one online and have it delivered. So yeah, things like that. Just you know, bear in mind that other people may bring it, and it's easy enough to get hold of when you're on campus. Sorry, I think you're on mute.
It wouldn't. Right, it would not be.
Technical glitch.
It wouldn't be a live session if someone wasn't on mute.
Just adding to the kitchen stuff, there is a group here. It's called the Great Donate, and at the end of the year, students will donate the stuff that they don't want to take with them. So again, don't panic about needing to get everything with you at the time. Under normal circumstances, you can buy hundreds of spoons, pots and pans, stationery, that sort of thing for very, very little money. And again, for the international students, that might be something quite helpful. Sorry.
It is really good, that is, and obviously it means that at the end of the year as well, if you want to donate anything, it's not going to waste. But yes, obviously you know, your creature comforts, bring them with you. Don't overload it too much. Be aware that you know, it's only one size room, so you don't want to bring the kitchen sink with you. But yeah, certainly creature comforts and things like that.
Yeah. And is there anything that's a no-go? Is there anything that sort of we don't allow? Sort of, you know, is there any items that students shouldn't bring with them?
Yes, heaters in the accommodation. Obviously your heating is included with the accommodation, so we don't allow heaters in the accommodation. There are other items that spring to mind, or not springing to mind at the moment, but we do have a website page that does tell you what not to bring. It's things like, yeah, kettles in your accommodation, you know, in your room itself. We don't like them in there. Anything like that. Yeah, any fire hazards. Candles are not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can get really good artificial candles now. They even flicker like a real candle.
You can do. And obviously you can bring your fairy lights as long as they are LEDs.
Yeah.
So yeah, be aware of that one. But yeah, like I say, there is a web page that says what's not allowed. But yeah.
I imagine a lot
not allowed either. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I imagine a lot of it's probably common sense. Anything that's a fire hazard or is going to you know, cause a risk is probably going to be a no. But yeah, make sure you check out the website for a full list. And Alicia, if I could come to you, please. Joe's just mentioned about the local area and how close Newcastle is. For people who aren't familiar with the local area at all, Alicia, could you give us an idea on what's on the doorstep, what you've got access to, and perhaps sort of transport links and that kind of thing?
Okay, it's actually much closer than it feels like. When I came for the offer holder day, it was something that almost put me off Keele. So I thought, oh my gosh, it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's really not. I can walk down into town in about half an hour, 45 minutes. There's a very regular bus service that goes direct from campus down to Newcastle under Lyme, and then that goes on to Hanley if you want bigger shops or a wider range of shops. There's an Aldi, a Lidl, a Sainsbury's, Morrison's, all down in Newcastle under Lyme, and so you can go down there on the bus, you can come back. I know people who've shared Ubers between their house to go down and do their shopping. Under normal times there is a cinema down there, there's a bowling alley, all your basic Amazon deliveries here is very common, happens very easily, and the post room is amazing. As I say, Hanley is slightly further afield if you want to do that. There's a train station in Stoke-on-Trent, which again is served by the bus route, so if you need to go down to London up to Manchester, very easy to get there. It's a mainline service. Yeah, I wouldn't be worried about being isolated. It's got that very nice balance of you're not in the middle of a city, so if that's what you're looking for, then you might need to think about it, but you do have access to things, and because we're not in the middle of city, we have the peace and the quiet. We've got an amazing campus that we can walk around, which, given stress levels at the moment, is just such a gift to have. It's right on your doorstep. You don't need to make any effort, and you've got all of this green space. It's amazing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alicia. And what would you say is your favourite bit of campus? Do you think you could pinpoint a certain thing about campus that you'd say that's my favourite thing about Keele?
Okay, so everyone goes for Keele Hall, but I'm slightly, I guess, quirky. I like behind Keele Hall. They've got the Clock House Tower there. It's the old stable yard in the days when Keele Hall was still a house, and it's got duck egg blue doors, and it's got that clock tower. I don't know, there's just something about the feel of the place. You get the daffodils coming up there, the walkway up to it. I call it Jurassic Drive. I don't know what the real name is. It's got these huge, great big rock boulders, and ivy, and I just find it a really magical, it's a bit like a secret garden type place. So that's probably my favourite.
Yeah.
Oh, and the KPA. Can't not mention the KPA. Which, going back to the societies thing, is that it's both a society and a physical place, a bit like a clubhouse. you may have noticed I mentioned fairy lights before, but they've got fairy lights there. How can you not like it? And they have a huge range of activities going on at the moment as well. So
yeah, brilliant, thank you. So for anyone who's not familiar with the KPA, it's Keele Postgraduate Association. So a little bit like the SU, it's sort of an association for our postgrad students, and they do loads of sort of different support that you can get, activities. The building itself does great chips, great lunches, so would definitely recommend. Brilliant, thank you.
Sorry, you don't actually need to be a postgrad, they take undergrads.
Yeah.
So open for everyone. The name's a bit of a misnomer. But.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question for admission. So Jackie, if I could perhaps come to you, how long can a student expect to wait until they hear about their offer from Keele?
Okay, good question. Well, obviously we're getting quite a lot of applications in each day now as we're approaching the deadline. So, but we do have a good team in admissions that are obviously processing decisions every day. So we are getting through a lot of decisions. So we are hoping sort of couple of weeks. We were hoping sort of 10 days we should have been in touch with an applicant, whether it's just to request further information or just, you know, to ask anything. It might not be the actual decision. It might just be some, you know, we need some extra information, or we need to just query maybe a qualification that's on their application. So hopefully, probably within about 10 days, we do hope to make contact, the first contact anyway, with the applicant. So obviously some of the courses may be slightly longer, you know, sort of like physiotherapy and pharmacy, because obviously interviews are involved with those applications, so that could be slightly longer. But we do try and make decisions as soon as we can, really.
I suppose the reassuring message there, and I can vouch for this, is that it is all hands on deck at the moment, isn't it? Really processing those applications. So you will hear. You will hear that from us. Yes. Brilliant, thank you. And Gordon, perhaps people who have submitted their medicine application, obviously we're a couple of months past that now, but in a normal cycle, how long do we take to sort of get back to students for their applications?
Well, the issue there is, first of all, we have to wait for results from their aptitude tests, which we get a little bit after the application deadline. And then because we use our roles and responsibilities form for selection for interview for home applicants, we have to have all of those read. So this year we've got about 1,000, and we assess and score them. So that does take some time, and it's done by academics and clinicians who obviously are working full time at other things. So we still have some of those to score. So usually it's around the end of January by which all of those have been done. And then we have to schedule interviews. So the interviews, we aim to get most of those done by the end of February. And then final decisions are all out by the end of March, but it can end up being quite a long wait.
You just have to sit tight and bear with the process. And Gordon, if I could just stay with you for a second, you talked briefly about the roles and responsibilities form there, which I understand is quite an integral part to sort of the decision making in those early stages. Is there anything in particular that you're looking for on there, perhaps like skills or, you know, sort of qualities? What are you looking for throughout that form?
We do try to spell it out in the form and in the accompanying guidance. If I give you a little bit of background, we used to use UCAS personal statements and score those, and we put quite detailed guidance on the web pages about what we wanted applicants to write about. Unfortunately, they persistently refused to tell us what we were asking for. So this form was so we could ask specific questions, and these are about experiences they've had, what roles they took on in those experiences, any kind of responsibility they've taken on, and an example of a situation in which they've helped or supported somebody, ideally over a reasonably prolonged time. So as I said earlier on, we're not looking for clinical experiences. What we're looking for is ways in which applicants have been involved in working directly with people in some kind of way that involves helping or supporting or caring for them. And there's a very wide range there. So if, for example, you've got a part-time job in retail or catering, you're clearly having a lot of engagement with people. And there may be examples from that where you've had to deal with people who are distressed or confused. So a lot of people work in charity shops, for example, and a lot of their customers are elderly and may often need to be helped. So that kind of thing, just demonstrating that you can understand what somebody's experiencing and can work out a way of helping them, is something we would look at very favourably. Again, in terms of the kinds of things people have been doing during lockdown, where they've not been able to physically engage with people, anyone who shows commitment to helping within their community. So say people have got involved in delivering groceries to people who can't go out, or phoning up neighbours who they know are on their own to make sure they're okay. We would have had some applicants who were given the responsibility by their school or college to keep track of some other students, usually younger students, sometimes their peers, because the school's limited in how much contact they can have with people. If they can get some students they trust to phone people up, make sure they're okay, make sure they've got access to their online home working, and identify if there are any issues that need to be fed back to school. So broadly, just ways in which you're engaging with people who have some kind of need of help or support, and responsibilities that you've taken on. And clearly somebody who's still at school or college, the level of responsibility we're expecting is not high. It's just we need to show that you're the kind of person who would be trusted to take responsibility. When you start something, you finish it. And it may be that you've demonstrated an ability to organise or to lead, or just to be a successful member of a team.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's really reassuring as well. And I think what you've just sort of said is, don't underestimate some of the experiences that you've got. You know, you're not expecting someone to have done heart surgery if they want to apply for medicine.
So I can give you an example of that. The best roles and responsibilities form I read for last year's admission cycle was from somebody whose only experience was delivering newspapers. But she'd done it for a long time. She was trusted by the shopkeeper to open the shop in the morning, make sure all the other delivery boys and girls had their materials for their rounds. And she was one of the people who was representing the eyes and ears of the community. If somebody's milk bottles weren't being taken in, or the post was piling up, she would be alerting whoever needed to be told. She would identify if somebody needed to be checked on. So what seems like quite a menial role can be quite significant.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for highlighting how important it is to link what you're doing to the skills that you learn and the qualities that you've got that make you, an appropriate candidate for medicine. Thank you, Gordon. We've had a couple more questions sent in via the YouTube chat. So if I can come to admissions, perhaps Joe, you could take this question for us. This is from Jenny, who has said that she already has an offer at Keele, so congratulations, Jenny, for a 3-year programme. Can Jenny still do an industry year when she joins us? So is there an opportunity to still do a placement year if you haven't applied for that at this point?
Yeah, if the course offers an industrial placement year, then yeah, you can write up to sort of during your first year as well. You can still opt for that. So don't worry if you haven't stated it on your application. There are lots of opportunities later on as well.
Brilliant. And I think that's one of the great things about Keele, about sort of the placement year, study abroad, international year. There's so many opportunities for students to get themselves involved with various things that really enhance their employability. Alicia, I know that you're planning, fingers crossed, planning on getting involved with study abroad year, aren't you?
Yeah, funnily enough, I booked my flights out yesterday. I've chosen to do a study abroad semester. There's 2 different schemes that you can do. You can either do 1 semester in your second year, or you can do a full year in between your second and final years. different requirements depending on which one you choose to go. There's a list of partner universities that Keele partners with around the world, and if I say that you're limited to that list, that's the wrong word to use, but those are the universities that you can go to, but they're everywhere, and such a wide range. And actually, I find it quite helpful to have that list because it contains you. So look on the website for that. The team has been very, very helpful with supporting application. It is a lot of work, but again, it's coming back to that experience thing. When are you ever going to get the chance to study abroad? Again, I've always wanted to live abroad, but always been too chicken to do it. But to have a team behind me, supporting me, willing me on, has just made it possible. Again, I had a slight issue with COVID. My original placement was cancelled, so I had to reapply to different countries to make it possible. And they've just so helpful getting me there. As Joe's just mentioned, there's also the year in industry, which probably won't be a surprise to anyone to know that I have also applied for. Not one to miss out on an opportunity. Again, it's an experience I found when I was looking around universities, and then one of my questions to final years was, what are you going to do? And bearing in mind I was quite late applying, so I was still looking at springtime, and all of the final years turned around and said, I've got not a clue. And I thought, how can you be that close to graduating and not know? But I understand now, university exposes you to so much, you learn so much and see the world in a different way. So for me, the year in industry is a way to challenge some of my preconceptions and try new industries, see how that's going to inform my dissertation. Is it an industry that I actually want to get into, or have I got some pie in the sky idea? So I personally think it's a very valuable thing to try to do if you can. The other thing to throw in there is the internships that are available through the university. Again, there's two schemes. There's one through the university's careers department, and then there's another program that's called CRISP, KRISP. Again, details of both on the website, so I won't bore you with that now. But again, it's another way to get really relevant experience, to work with different academics, to learn different presentation styles, academic writing skills. As Gordon's just alluded to, it's something else to put on your CV, transferable skills. There's a lot out.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alicia. And just to mention as well, Jenny, most schools do have sort of dedicated staff who can support you in sourcing a placement and supporting you throughout the placement. You are still very much a Keele student while you're on placement, so we still support you. We're into the final minute, but we have just had a question about when should I apply for September intake. So we've established that it's January 29th deadline. You can submit an application to us after that date, but generally we're going by the 29th, aim for the 29th. But get in touch with us after if you still need to submit an application. And then, oh God, finally, we've just had a question about accommodation. When do I have to apply for accommodation? So if I remember rightly, Joe, applications opened around March, deadline of June.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. So get your applications in then. Like I say, it's not first come, first serve, so there's no rush. Take your time, make sure that you fill it in as you want it. It is an important thing. With all things that are university based, but yes, you've got plenty of time.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I think we've covered most of the questions that were sent in to us there. So thank you very much. That does bring us to the end of this Ask Us Anything. So thank you so much for joining us, and also thank you to our brilliant panel for their involvement this evening. If you do think of any questions following this, then you can chat with us directly via our UniBuddy platform, which can be found at keele.ac.uk/chat, where we've got a range of student ambassadors and staff, some of which are here tonight, who you can speak to. So thanks again, and we really hope to see you sometime at Keele in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.